Hello, welcome to the Senior Tech live stream. It is the 3rd of March, and today I want to talk about excessive. I was looking through some video on YouTube, and it was strange to me still how overkill some people do it. Because unless you're Elon Musk, you generally probably have a limited amount of money. So the fact that somebody like Marcus Brownlee uses red cameras for their YouTube video, I find just crazy and strange. I mean, hey, it's a free country. You can do what you want. If you want to use a red camera and you have the money to buy a red camera for your YouTubes, I guess go ahead. I just find that not the typical situation. And likely, you look at, Curtis admits, he's got a Canon C200, which is a very expensive camera, but it was purchased for something else, and is used for the live stream because that's what he has. But basically it's a $5,000 webcam in a sense. And that's true with, me and several people on Curtis's channel have talked about mics extensively, and I'm somewhat of a mic snob. I don't buy, cheap mics for the most part because I want them to last longer than me. I sold some mics when I semi-retired, and a couple of them were half as old as I am. Okay, I think some of them were 30 years old. As I said, the mean time between failure for an SM57, as we learned from the Shure guy, is 500,000 hours of use. That's like, 50 years if you use it continuously or something like that. So you can't kill that mic. And to me, you don't want to buy more than you need. On the other hand, you don't want to buy less than you need. And sometimes, I am just like everybody else. I see something that's neat and I think I want to buy it. And then I figure out a reason to buy it back when I had a business. I was notoriously spending money because I could, I guess, because I had customers that, to be quite honest, overpaid for my services. And therefore I had the money to buy some stuff that I would have normally not been able to buy. But it's not good, let's face it. This live stream, I decided to buy nothing other than some cables. So yes, I am using a $1,500 or $1,200 Sennheiser MKH50 mic, and it's excellent. But I already had it. The Rodecaster I already had. The Scarlett I already had. The main camera here is just a Sony ZV-E1 or ZV-1. Sorry, it's a little bitty point and shoot fixed lens, but it's so small and tiny. It fits in my setup really nicely, and to me, it does a good job. Now, this light over here seems really bright on my Adamus shotgun that I'm recording on, but it's not so bright. So if somebody thinks this side's too bright, let me know and I'll turn that light down. But so I'm looking at 3 different monitors and 2 of them say it's fine, and you go with the majority. But I think it's really important to buy the right tool for the right gig at the right time. And sometimes you just don't know. The advantage of when I got into doing tech consulting and doing the work that a lot of people already do is that some of the gear was already out. Okay. The ATEM came out just at the right time for a lot of people. Let's face it. I don't know how many gazillion ATEMs got sold during COVID, or, because anyway, they sold like hotcakes, and I personally installed 10 of them. So yeah, they were a great pick. And some people underbought, including me. My first ATEM for a customer was the ATEM Mini 4-port Pro. So that's not the base model, that's one up, but I didn't get the ISO. And I quickly ran out of ports, and so we had to go to the Extreme. And then didn't make the mistake. Second time, I bought the Extreme ISO. So to me, that's kind of, again, don't underbuy, but don't overbuy. If you think you need 4 ports and your device only has 4 ports, be very concerned. That's why I didn't buy the MixPre 3. I bought the MixPre 6. I thought I really only needed 2 ports, but I was scared of not. And so I went for the extra money to buy the MixPre 6, which gave me 4 XLRs, and that was great. But to be quite honest, I kind of needed the 10, but I made it work because the FX3 camera I have has 2 XLR inputs, and they're good. So one time I needed the 10, I made it work without really any cost. And that's key. I mean, I see a lot of YouTubers using FX3s, FX A7S3s, which are basically the same thing. I mean, the the 7.3, they get my numbers straight. Sony, all these names, I wish somebody would come up with simpler naming. I'd almost buy their products just for the simplicity of it. But the Sony A7S3 and the FX3 are the same guts. And the S3 came out first, and so a lot of people bought them. The FX3 didn't come out till later. If I could do it all over again, I'd buy 2 FX30s, because my high quality lenses, my Fujinon lenses I have, are just Super 35 APC. So I have an FX3, but I generally have to shoot it in APC mode. Though, when I put a G Master lens on it, let's face it, Sony autofocus is great. So again, I think we need to try to get the right gear for the right stuff. And to me, that's important. The other thing I want to talk about, of course, I mean, we all know my background is mostly mics. And again, I don't buy any cheap mics because I tried a few. I mean, in a crunch, I've used the is it Samsung? Not Samsung. Samson, I think it is. But I wasn't impressed, just put it that way. If you take a DPA mic, a Sennheiser mic, a Shure mic, a Audio Technica mic, even Newman, or overkill. I mean, I saw again a couple of days ago a guy, and I don't know if he had other uses for the Newman, but a Newman U86, I think it is, 87, the $4,000, we used them in studios. They're great for studio work. They're so overkill for a live stream. I can't use my best mic in this office of mine. I can't use the same mic Curtis Judd uses, the Earthworks Ethos. It picks up. I have a HEPA unit air cleaner going. I have sometimes a space heater below. I have an air conditioner right up there in the summer that will be running. I have a server rack that has spinning hard drives, and it's a little bit loud. It's got fans in it to keep it cool, because I have 100 terabytes of RAID 6 storage, and it's 8 hard drives spinning. All that sound, the Ethos condenser mic picks up. Surprising, I'm sure the Sennheiser picks up some of it, but it's more directional and it's not an issue. When I do my podcast, I have the best mic for me, for my voice and for what I do is that of using a dynamic mic. Now, in a podcast, I don't videotape my podcast. I have a couple of customers. None of them videotape except on rare occasion. If they have a guest in studio, we sometimes videotape. Most time we don't. So having a mic, right here, or technically right here, is a great thing. I use the Procaster. I think I've said this before, but when I traveled, when I was doing live consulting for people for their podcast, I had a case. I don't have it anymore. I've sold them all, but I had 5 mics in that case. I had the Shure SM7B, my least favorite mic, but it's the standard, and so people sometimes just want it. The Earthworks Ethos to me is the best mic of the bunch. I had the Rode Procaster, I had the Rode Pod mic, which is the cheapest, and then I had an Electric Voice RE320, and those were the 5 mics that I would try out, and because some people are better on different mics than others, and I had a woman who didn't sound good in any of them, so I had to search around and find another mic. I ended up with the Earthworks, the lesser one, the Icon, and it sounded better than, and that's what we went with. So again, for me, it's generally trial and error, and having those 5 mics to pick from, I generally can always get a solution. There's a comment here, and I hope I pressed the right button here. Yep, there we go. Matt, do you prefer to look at the frequency response to make your audio decisions, or would you rather listen to the mic? Funny that. Yeah. Yes, I know how to read. Polar patterns, hugely important, okay? You don't want a shotgun mic when you need a cardio mic, okay? That part, totally look at. But I don't ever look at frequency response, really. To me, that little, the one they print is not the one that's actually doesn't match your mic. Okay, so there's that. And the second thing is all the other things in play. I mean, we all know if you have a good mic and you have the ability to EQ. Now, I was going to play some YouTube videos, and I just noticed when I was setting this up, when I played them up, they came through the yellow box and they sounded just terrible, and so I wasn't going to play them. I'm going to pretty much in person only. There's still some problems with the yellow box. We tried the guest, last week, and that didn't work. So I figured out a trick for my headphone problem. I spent $20 on a short cable and a switch. And so I tested it out on a Zoom call the other day, and when I'm listening to the person, I can just click the click. The trouble is the Sennheiser picks that up, but you won't get the feedback from the headphones that way, and I can talk, because the way it was with Curtis, if I had to say more than 3 words, it would mess me up, the echo. So, but for, and sometimes, let's face it, we used to call it one thing, if you're old enough to remember. I now call it Southern engineering. I have had to Southern engineer so much over my career, it's not even funny. And that's the difference between somebody that's been around and somebody that's new. Somebody that's new, if it doesn't work, they're limited number of options. They know what to do. I can't say that I know all the answers to a problem, but as a consultant, I've had my experiences solving a lot of crazy problems over the year. Let's go to the chat again. Mark, I came from still photography. Yes, I know. And didn't know a thing about video. The first mic were paired with the Octava 12S's and the MKE 600s. I believe Gerald Undone used the Octavo, and it sounded pretty good on his. I've used the MKE 600s before. They're not bad mics. So, again, I asked a question a couple weeks ago, Aaron Parecki, who he may have a weakness, but I don't know what it is. He knows audio. He has some Audio Technica shotgun mics. He has a full mixer board. He knows how to do mixing. He has different mixes for different things. He has a rack that is, he has the major ATEMs, the Constellation ATEM. He knows, of course. I think I've seen demos of 7 different switchers. I mean, I can barely use one, and he can use 7, so that's very impressive. So if you haven't, generally every week at 11 o'clock Central, you can convert that to whatever. Aaron Parecki has a live stream that he goes over streaming, and I tend a lot because I'm new at the streaming, to be quite honest. I like streaming because I don't like editing, and I can talk about most things on the fly because most of the things I'm talking about I've done before. Curtis was right. Curtis is generally right. That's the reason I always send people to Curtis, because when it comes, I thought when I was going to get into YouTube, what do I want to do? And I discovered Curtis, and I said, well, I don't need to do audio. He's got it, and he's got a good following. He's got courses. Anyway, the Pat Curtis Judd, there's a slot of smoothing and averaging a frequency response to make the mics look better. The same is done for loudspeakers. So yeah, loudspeakers are an art form. I mean, generally speaking, you have a company put in, the loudspeakers for an event, and then you don't have to worry about them. And that's good, but most, including me, my expertise in loudspeakers is pretty limited. When I was never the top dog. I was just the sound guy at best, usually the monitor guy or lefser. My favorite position was alternate because, it fit me. The alternate on a tour is the guy that's sitting by the producer, in 5 minutes before a show, somebody's having a problem and you go deal with him or deal with that position. Somebody gets sick at the last minute. So you could be running camera one day and just being, running monitors the next. So I kind of enjoyed the alternate position because it was, you never knew what you was going to do. As I said, if I wanted it on my business card, but everybody always said, no, you can't put that as jack of all, master of none. Though I have a lot of audio experience, that's my most depth. I'm broad. I understand networks and network topology, and I was an IT guy for years, as well as being the audio visual guy. So I've done that kind of stuff. But one of the things, now I feel sorry for the new people. There are so many tech review channels. You come on, there are several things I will never figure out in the world. I realize that. Airline pricing, I will never figure that one out. I will never figure out the Google algorithm for why it suggests what it suggests to you. But for a new person coming on that's just set up and is trying to get something, going to the right source is key. If you want to know the specs of a camera, I don't know if anybody does it better than Gerald Undone. If you want to know audio, I send people to Curtis Judd. I say that all the time. If you want to know how to use a Rodecaster, Tom Buck. If you want to know how to use, You know, the gaming, there's some sites that do that. If you want to know live streaming, Aaron Parecki, Photo Joseph's in there. If you're doing voiceovers, there's a guy. I mean, there are people that are very good at staying in their niche. I mean, let's talk about niche. I don't remember the guy's name, but podcastage, you know, reviews mics, and I find his reviews to be pretty spot on. So it's great. You never have to buy. You can at least know what a mic's going to do before you buy it, because he's reviewed about every mic it seems there is. And so for a guy starting out, again, it's finding the right person to go to the source for. Thanks for coming, Curtis. I think specs in general are worth looking at roughly. Picture of a mic or speaker in any piece of gear. There's not much captured by the specs that really has to work with the gear. Yeah. You know, I wish there was a manual you could just pick up and, you know, tells you everything you need to know. I'm sure not going to write it. I'm a terrible writer. But I got called. This is live. I got called by a former friend of a customer, and he's now working for a company. He says, "I know you're semi-retired, so that means you will still do some work." I said, "Well, yeah." He goes, "Can you take this meeting with my boss?" I said, "Sure." And I took the meeting, and they wanted a remote streaming setup, and they gave me they said, you know, about a $2,500 budget, which seemed reasonable. So I worked up that budget and what to buy. And, you know, the trickier part is the camera, because it's going to be the most expensive part. Now, I'm going to push, I do this right. You get to see what's going on here. I'm going to click that button. Nope, can't push that button, because then I can't get in there. Sorry. Let's try the side-by-side button. This camera here is the $500 DJI Pocket 3. It's set to portrait mode, and it's zoomed in slightly to it's still a little bit bare up there. You see the top of the curtain, and it's tracking. So as I move around, it automatically follows me. And I use this camera when I'm talking on the YOLO box, because I'm pointing, you know, I'm closer to it versus the camera that's up there. It's it's the best way. I use it for webcam now exclusively. It's a great little camera. And the fact that it tracks, you know, the iPad Pro I have tracks, but the front facing camera. It's not nearly this good. I mean, this is a 1-inch sensor. Of course, the big joke, you know, a 1-inch sensor isn't 1 inch. It's 0.69 inches. Don't get me. That's a whole nother story. But they do a great job with it. It's a very versatile webcam, and its image quality is good. So picking a camera for this was tricky, but theirs was fixed point. It was never going to be taken. It's purely for the office. So I went with the ZV-1, not the E1. The E1's a really expensive camera. I went with the Sony Z1 because it's just tiny, easy to mount, and I went with the Streamer X. I seriously considered the Mackie, but the Mackie doesn't do 4K, and to me that's not really a huge requirement for streaming now, but maybe in the future. I don't have the Mackie, and I have the Streamer, and it's worked really well. The only thing I wish it would do is record, but it doesn't do that, of course. So miking, you know, I went with they had the money. This is funny. I picked the Streamer, I picked the camera, and how much money I had left. I always never skimp on cables, because cables I always buy. Well, if I can get Alan at Sound Speeds to make them, that's great. But he's been busy and hasn't had time to make any cables lately. So I ended up buying Begami, and because they unless you cut it, they're not going to fail. I mean, I know that's just kind of the nature of the beast. I used to have some sources. Well, I still have some sources here in Nashville that make the big for the touring companies, but their minimum order is $2,000. So anyway, I come in with I'm getting to a point. I promise. I bring in the quote to the customer. This is the equipment. And then he says, okay, I need 20 of them. I go, well, wait. I know the one guy because I met him. Now there's 20 people, 8 of which are women. It may not be the right mic because not every mic works on every person. Well, the owner, who knows nothing about tech at all, he did at least understood that. And so he says, well, you can FaceTime him and you'll have to pick a mic based on that. I go, well, that's not a very good way to do it, but I guess I'll give it a try. And again, it's mainly for Zoom and FaceTime calls and talk. They're all salespeople talking to their customers, so it's not like it's high fidelity. It's not like we're recording it. So that's what I've been doing. Sorry, I'm trying to read. Again, you got to go down here and press this button, and this is how you read the comments. Hi, Jazz. Hi, Curtis. Just got home, so I'll have to catch up with your live later. The new kid on the block, Matt, is taking over. It's nice to know that I'm the new kid on the block, and I'm almost 65. I've not been called new for a long time. True, but I did have some money in there for some small lights, and Curtis, this is an idea for a future because you do lighting as well. You have really expensive lights in your studio. I don't. I have those expensive lights. I just don't have any room for them. So I'm using 2 little bitty, what are these things called? It's the cube lights. I'm using 2 cube lights, 2 Aperture MC Pros. I love the MCs, but they were never powerful enough, and the Pros are powerful enough. I was, this is, again, silly story, but I was so waiting. I knew the Pros, they announced the Pros were coming out, and I was saving money because I wanted to buy the 4-pack. Because the MC Pro, they had this case with 4 MCs you could buy, and I'd saved up. I figured, it's probably about $1,000, and they're going to come out with this 4-pack, and I could get 4 of them, and that would just be perfect. And so they finally get released, and guess what? They came out with an 8-pack, which was $2,000. And I'm going, I don't need 8 of them. I was so upset. Anyway, marketing people. What? Sometimes I just want to take marketing people. Go the right camera here. Take marketing people and wring their neck. So excessive equipment purchase. I don't know about y'all, but I'd like your take on this. But I stick with a brand that's not failed me. I mean, if I was Curtis, this will crack you up. I contacted you about this documentary in Africa, and then COVID hit. We didn't get to go. It was rescheduled. We were about ready to go, and then there was a problem, and we couldn't go. 3 years later, it's back on the table, and I'm building out equipment. So I know I'm going to end up purchasing an 888 if I don't rent it. I don't like renting gear. I've never liked renting gear. except for tour. It's a different ball game in tour. But I like to have the gear for a while before I use it, especially if it's not something I regularly use. And the 888 up from the mix free is a much more complicated, but it gives you everything you need for a documentary crew of, I believe it's going to be 9 people in this crew, not counting. It's a very small number of people acting, besides extras, but the crew, there's 2 camera operators, a behind the scenes person, the director of photography, who's also the director, the sound guy. I'm actually part of the producer team, but I'm helping out in the sound. I'm actually in charge of the sound as well because I'm pretty good at it, obviously. But yeah, I'm back to building out the cost for this trip. We got the cameras taken care of. We're taking 3 cameras with her. We're going to get the new Sony Burano as the main camera, and then we're using FX3 and FX30s as the 2B cameras. And we'll see how it goes. But in Africa, you got to worry about power. So we are renting or borrowing 20 99 V-mount batteries because everything's got to run on power, including the lights. And the big Novas, the Nova 300s, we've got 3 of those. We can rent C-stands in Africa, so that's good. We don't have to carry those on the plane. But we got 300 Novas to take with us. So anyway, I may be emailing you about a question with the 888 if this project goes through or not. The way it's gone, it's been canceled before. I'm not holding my breath. So, again, but I stick with when it's back, I stick with the brand. Sound Devices. The only, it's really tough. I was doing a quote for a friend of mine, and it was purely a quote. He wasn't going to be buying the gear from me. He was going to be buying it directly and saving the money, and that was fine. He was a friend, and we were talking about wireless. I love the Shure Accent, okay, but they're mainly for studio tours. I mean, for musician tours, or a theater, but they're not particularly great for, documentary in Africa. The Sound Devices, their little kit with the way the wireless is much better for traveling in a small setup. So, but that gets to be expensive, having both. So, thank heavens I still have 2 Shure Accent. I have a pair. I say I have 3. I have a 58 wireless and then a 2 lav packs. So you can use 2 of the 3 mics. I only have 2 receivers, a dual receiver. But I don't have they're the rack. They're in a big, huge rack. They're not in the mobile setup. So I'm going to have to do, and I keep bouncing about what I'm going to do for audio. I really like the Telesync track E's. And since me and the producer saying, we can use those with the wirelesses we got. We've both got everybody's got a DJI Go mic or a Rode mic. Everybody, it seems, and we can use those for the producer's audio, and we'll get the better quality recordings from the track E's with COS 11s, which work really well. I know guys, and you can use the TL48s on them as well. So again, that's what I'm spending my free time deciding what to do with that. What's everyone's take on running an AVL business as a solo operator? AVL, Mark, can you give me, I think I know what that means. Audio visual lighting business. I tried it at my agent, and that was the straw that broke the camel's back. That's why I retired. just so everybody knows. It nearly killed me. If you're going to set up it was just 2 cameras. It was an FX3, that's the main camera, an FX30 as a B camera, and I think I had another camera like my A7 IV as just a C camera just in case. Setting up a shotgun mic, also having a hardwired lav, not a transmitter lav. I have it plugged into the mic straight into the mix pre through the whatever it's called, the thing that gives it the power, lowers the 48 volts down to 10 volts. Anyway, that full setup. Then setting up 2 C stands with 2 big lights, a 300X and a Nova 300, and trying to run all that yourself, it's literally killed me. Now, ever since my wreck, I just can't lift 300. I can't lift the Nova 300 over my head and play with it with any great success without having to go see the chiropractor because I can't walk now. But so I just think it's really tough. That's my answer to that question. Yeah, again, the brands that take care of you is key. I mean, I've been pleasantly surprised with Rode. Sound Devices is excellent. Aperture. One, this is a plug for B&H. I buy everything I can exclusively from B&H. I have a long-time acquaintance that works there. On top of, when I do a quote, I get a deal. But they have access to some of the best people, and they know what they're talking about. So I almost exclusively buy from B&H. That and the fact that I was audited once by the IRS, and the fact that they keep everything I bought, it made life a whole lot easier during that audit. That by itself paid for itself. And if you don't know this is pro tip. Get their Paybu credit card because you save. Tennessee's a very high sales tax state. Okay, we have no income tax, which is great, but our sales tax is 9.25%. So it's basically everything you buy costs 10% more. But they will write off even just on a regular purchase. You can get if you use their credit card, you get all the sales tax back, which is really nice. So jazz. I went out tonight to watch a jazz quartet. That makes sense since you go by jazz. I left Premiere Pro running, rendering an hour and a 30-minute video. Came home to a crash report. Has anybody switched to DaVinci? Well, I don't switch to DaVinci. I never used Premiere. I have a long history with Adobe that I think I've explained once before, but I can't stand Adobe. I have several friends at Apple who have had to work with Adobe. They call their we both call their programming Swiss cheese programming. It's full of holes. It's that, and I don't like subscription services, and so I don't have anything to do with Premiere. I do use Final Cut for my simple edits. My son-in-law, who's a professional editor, has all 3, but he's of the bunch. He's ready to get rid of Premiere as well. He uses DaVinci Resolve the most. I know that a lot of people use DaVinci. It's if you have a ATEM, or if you have their workflow is all tied in. The fact that their audio plug for Curtis, he has a Fairlight, which is their audio plug-in for DaVinci Resolve. He's got a course to get you going, which is handy. And as I've told him multiple times, it's really, it's less than, it costs less than it should, so it's a good deal. I won't mention any names, but I have a friend who sells his Final Cut Pro beginner video at $250, and I that's I think that's high, but yeah, audio video lighting by yourself. Sorry, Mark, that's just killer. Mark, it's very hard to understand everything about AVL as a solo. I contract out most of my videos. It's, I mean, I can run it all. I can do it all. I mean, I know and Mark comes from the photography side. We've talked about multiple times, so he understands the lighting pretty well. It's probably the audio is his weakest point. It's just the setup. It just takes forever. It's just a killer. I mean, this video shoot was for us. It's going to be trimmed down to about 30 minutes. So we shot for about a little between an hour and 90 minutes. But I spent two and a half hours setting up and an hour and a half taking down. That's just it. I'm just too old for that. I had to run sound Wednesday for a church. And it was, of course, all set up. All I had to do, and it was, I mean, it was simply a guy on a guitar and a preacher. It was a piece of cake. But they didn't have anybody. Their main guy was out and their backup guy was out. So, you know, you walk in, you sit at the chair or stand up. Their console is stand up. Most people's consoles are stand up, but most people have a bar stool type setup that you can sit down. And for that, I mean, miking two people with I can basically do that with my eyes closed, kind of thing, as the saying goes. So. Jazz, I'm gonna win this PC. I'm sorry. I feel sorry for you. I was on Windows PCs for years. I think I buy the full DaVinci and start learning a stable nearline video editing system. Yes. I know that I know that Gerald Undone is on PC. He uses DaVinci Resolve, and I don't think he's had any. I don't think he doesn't do any training courses. But he has done some talk about how he does his video edits and stuff. So you might find those on his channel. I don't have them at the top to send you links or anything, but I know he's done them because I've seen him. The advantage of being retired, I watch a lot of YouTube videos. So, going forward on my live stream, I'm again, I've said this before, I'm retired. I can do it whenever. Doing it after Curtis, because sometimes, not necessarily even today, it would have been good to maybe continue what Curtis started, but sometimes he's just getting going and the hour ends. I don't mind postponing what I'm going to do to discuss what he discussed further. So that's always an option. That's why I kind of picked the 2:30 time slot. But if there's another time people want to go live and there's two or three, I'm not high demand. If there's two or three people that need a live stream, you know, it only takes 20 minutes for me to set up. And if I'm here, I don't mind doing it. Again, if you're on a PC, I suggest you learn to build your own PCs. You can really get much better components that way. I did for years. I mean, all my computers were built myself. The church I ran, churches have at least in Tennessee, churches have a great deal. Under state law, a church in Tennessee, and it's true in other states, can purchase at the state rate. Okay. I have a background in procurement, FY, and the government pretty much is guaranteed the best price. And so I got these computers with 3-year warranties, on-site warranties, that were compacts, built like a tank, good office computers for an unbelievable price back in the day. And so that was great. But for all the stuff I did on my own, I built my own PCs. Because once you buy a really nice case, I mean, I have one case that I know I replaced every component in there 4 times. I mean, I still have the case. It's 20 years old and still in great shape. So if you're young, learn to. It's not that hard anymore to build your own, especially with YouTube and the internet at your disposal. It's a piece of cake to build your own computers. Mark's got a question here. Let's see. I want to plug the Deity Theos. Used the kit last week for 8-hour job, cause 11, in the mix pre. Used a 906 megahertz band where I was shooting and worked flawlessly. Had 500 G4s as a backup, but didn't need it. I think we've come to conclusion that the Theos is kind of that middle ground that unless there's some special, it's a, I'm right, it's around 1,000. Curtis again has a great review of it. It's around $1,000 for the 3 pieces, the receiver and 2 mics, 2 transmitter packs, but then you got to add. I mean, a cause 11. What is the cost of a cause 11? I have a computer here. Hold on. See if I can get a price here. Sanken cause 11, $349 is the cost for each mic, which is still cheaper than a TL48, which is around $480, I think. So to me, Sanken cause 11 is a pro level mic, and it's very easily EQ'd. Most all labs, FYI, every church I set up or I was part of, I put 286s and EQs as patch outs to every wireless. So every wireless was EQ'd, just because you have to have EQ with labs and compression, to be quite honest. Scan and wow, it scanned and recommended the frequencies. Yeah, the machines are smarter. I mean, let's face it, the machines are. I mean, as I said, this Pocket 3, it does so much for the price. It's not even funny. Some brands are much more expensive than others. I have the Pearl Nano that I use for some things because the SRT stream is very solid, and that thing's hugely expensive. You know. Oh, again. What I want to talk about was overkill. Today, I saw a guy getting. He had 22 people in his live stream, which is about 5 times bigger than mine, but much smaller than Curtis's or the bigger names have in their live streams. He had $10,000 of just audio equipment, and again, I don't know. I didn't stay long enough. I was just kind of curious because I saw the mic. He was talking about the Neve it was plugged into. He may have a studio, and so if you have a studio, that gear is sitting there, you can just reuse it. But as I said, a rich man contacted me. His son wants to be on YouTube, and his budget was $25,000, and I dropped it down to $2,500. The kid wasn't too happy about it, but he's since come around and now appreciates why I only spent $2,500, because he only stayed at it for 6 weeks and quit. So instead of wasting $25,000, the dad only wasted $2,500. I did get a new stand for my YOLO box. I do have an overhead camera on. I do. Is that the overhead? Yeah. I put it on a. Oh, this is going to be interesting. I got it on a tripod on a low profile ball joint, and that gives me plenty of stability and allows me to tilt it. The let me go to the touching of the stuff is very tricky down here. If you're doing the overlays, you got to hit them just right, or it doesn't work right. And that's a problem. But we'll go. I said next week I'm going to talk about the YOLO box. I think I've got it well enough understood that I can explain what I like about it, what it's missing big time, and what it needs. And we'll go over that. And after that, I have some ideas, but I'm open to suggestions again. Again, there's a website. I have it up on I actually have a button for that now, I think, right there. There's the website. It's very simple. So if you want to know when I'm starting and what time and everything, I promise to keep the website updated. That's my promise. That's it. There's no pages. There's no nothing. There's the logo at the top, or one of the logos, and then there's the link to the Facebook group. Nobody's really participated that much in the Facebook group, but you know, we're young. You know, Curtis talked about having a server. What's that server called? And I bought when I bought my Sony A7 IV, I took DSLR shooter Chris Pines? That's not the right name. Anyway, I took his course, and you got Discord server. That's it. But that requires too much upkeep, I think. The Facebook group is just much low maintenance, and I'm on Facebook because I'm old. This Facebook, I like Facebook for what it is. But again, this is the right tool for the right thing. YouTube is great for video. Twitter is great for bullet points. Okay, Instagram's great for pictures. Facebook's really great for keeping up with my old high school friends. I went to a large high school. 666 graduating seniors. And yes, I knew the kid that was number 666. I wasn't him. But it's kind of funny. But we've all become, we found each other on Facebook, and it's nice to keep up that way. And so I like Facebook for what it is. Don't try to stream to it. They don't want streaming. They make it really hard to stream to Facebook, so I'm not doing those. YouTube makes it really easy, and that's what I'm doing. I use Rumble a lot because I have three things I like a lot. I'm very serious about my Christian faith, and so I love the discussion of theology. You're not supposed to talk about that in public. I love politics. You're not supposed to talk about that in public. So in public, I generally talk about my third love, which is tech. So a lot of the people that I listen to have been kicked off YouTube because YouTube is very left-winging. But stuff like tech is neutral. So they're all on Rumble. And I could stream to Rumble at the same time, but let's face it, for tech, it's not an issue. So what is Discord? Discord is a server that allows you to you can have different topics and people can chat and talk about it. It's a communications platform unto itself. I don't have one that I can give you access to, but that's what some tech guys use to. It is a good place to get answers. I'm really surprised YOLO Live, the people that own YOLO Box, don't have a Discord server, but they're doing it on Facebook, and it's a very active group, and they've been. They're hugely helpful for me getting mine up and running quickly. It took me a little an hour to figure out how to register the thing, because what logically made sense, you go to the home screen and go to the settings and try to type in your email address there, and it wouldn't let you. You had to go in to create a live stream in which it took you to the right page the first time to register. But no documentation. I mean, the documentation for Yellow Box is terrible. But Discord server is good. They just require a lot more work than a Facebook page. And I'm all for less work. I have to brag in some sense to say that I'm motivated by being lazy. There's an easy way to do something, I'm all in, especially if it's just good. So that kind of sums up what I was going to talk about today is excessively. Don't buy Newman if all you need is a Rode, okay? Don't buy a Sennheiser MKH 50 if you can get by with a lesser one. I mean, I had it, so I'm using it. I also have the Rode NTG video mic, which is, you could buy 4 for the price of one of those, and it's pretty darn good, especially if it's only, that far away. So I have both of them up, so I haven't used this shot today. I'll put it up. There we go. There's the NTG, and there's the MKH50. I will tell you, I have a fortune tied up in iFootage spider crab legs. I mean, I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 of them. 10 of them I'm using. They are just the greatest little tools for mounting things there is. So, I mean, see, I've got it mounted. I have it attached to the cage to mount the Pocket 3. They are very well made. I'm somewhat a fan of iFootage. I have a couple of their tripods. I mean, I have the really nice tripod for my stuff, but for when I don't want to travel with that big old tripod, I have the iFootage tripods. I got to show you this. So I'm gonna put up a screen just because I gotta walk off and go grab something. This is my funny iFootage story, and then we'll end. Okay, so this is a cane handle that you can buy to fit on a monopod. Greatest invention since sliced bread, in a sense, because airlines started blocking people taking their monopods on them. See, monopod, okay, iFootage monopod. But I put a cane handle on it, and now it's a cane, and an airline lets you take it on. I had one airline question me, and I showed them my rec, and that was enough, and they let me on. But I've traveled with it across 3 continents, and only been stopped once in Seattle again. Jazz, I gave up on my Yellow Box MK1, poor screen, laggy, and the battery swelled out. I hope they are better units now. I think the Ultra's got the much faster processor. I'm currently running 5 feeds into it with no issues. It's got the camera 1. We'll go through these. Camera 2, that one up there. Camera 3 is my iPad, which is, I believe, I just have that screen on it right now. Number 4 is the phone, which is just parked over here. We're going to pick it up. There's the phone, right? And then the USB-C is, I have it in portrait mode, so I'm running 5 video feeds into it. Plus the audio is coming through, the Rodecaster into the Scarlett into the USB-C port. Um, and so I'll end with this. Yeah, I wanted to get another camera and put it way up in the corner to give kind of a studio view. I'm going to listen. It's those the little Tel Airs. You know, it's a little bitty. I meant to ask Curtis because he bought a PTZ camera, but he hasn't used it since the one time he showed it off. So remind me next week. Mark, you're younger. You remind me next week to ask Curtis if he still has the PTZ camera, because I'm curious. But this begs the question, how does one know what to purchase when there's a lack of experience? Well, that's why I'm here right now, and others, Curtis and Aaron Parecki. I mean, most people that do live streams they're all set up to answer questions. For business, should you buy the best tools you can afford at the time? Should you buy the best tools you can afford? Again, it's on a case by case basis, and that's what, as a consultant, I got paid to answer those questions for people. Now I do it mainly for free, so that's good. And since we're friends now, I hope you use me. But again, never chimp on mics if you're planning, especially if I was 20, 30, or 40 and the mic, it was a stretch, I'd wait till I could get the stretch because I knew that mic would pay for itself over time. Video gear, that stuff gets obsolete in 5 years. Okay, buy just the video gear you need. But you somewhat know this already, Mark, in one sense, that because you're a Nikon guy. Look how much Nikon glass you have, and some of the Nikon glass you have is older than maybe even two of your, older than several camera bodies, because camera bodies have to be updated. The lenses rarely have to be updated. They may lose some functionality, but they're still great lenses. So that's kind of my take on equipment is, and I've always struggled with this, but I've always waited to get what I needed to get something that was the right price, the right piece for the puzzle. And let's face it, you can buy something a whole lot cheaper than a mix-free, but the mix-free, that thing is rock solid. Okay, you can buy something cheaper, and in some cases that's fine. I mean, a pod mic, a $99 Rode a $99 Rode pod mic is not terrible, especially if you EQ it a little bit and use some of the effects that are built into either the Rodecaster, which is most likely, or the Streamer, or one of those, or the Duo. It's a great setup. I'll end you with this pet peeve and comment. You see on YouTube, especially young ones, holding their wireless receiver. Now, Rode makes, this is a Rode one. See the little dot there? This is simply a stand for the Rode wireless mic. And you put a Windstream on it, and it looks like a regular mic. And it's so much better than holding the stupid. This thing costs $20 or $30. It's cheap as all get out. I mean, I'm going to do a short about this week, I promise. This is so much better to use if you're interviewing somebody, because you got something to hold on to. And it's got a nice windscreen on it. It's better than the little furry ones they put on there. So, again, get the right tool for the job if you're in it for the long haul. Now, in Mark's case, my case, Audio Buff, you still got some years left on you. And Jazz, you got plenty of years left on you. When you get my age, if you're going to be in it for a few years, then it's a different ball game, because you never get your money's worth when you sell used equipment, with rare exceptions. I got my money's worth out of my Sure Axiom because there was a back order at the time. I mean, I don't know what it is now, but when I sold mine, unless you had some really good connections, you were in a 4 or 5 month wait to get the Sure Accent receivers or transmitters. And so the fact that I had them, they were all working, they were all configured, they were all tested. Don't get me wrong, there's nothing wrong. I quit using eBay for multiple reasons. But I have a friend who's good at it, and if I need something sold that I can't sell by Facebook Marketplace or to somebody I know that wants it, then I simply Jazz, I'm already 65. Oh, see, I thought you were a young kid. Okay, strike that. But when the trouble that like Mark's having, the trouble I was having, the amount of gear you have to have these days to do professional videos really requires more than one person, unless you're really niche, maybe. It's a lot of setup. It's a lot of work. It's a hard way to make a living, I think. That's the trouble with being entrepreneurs, in a sense. One-man bands are just hard. You have to do it all. And we're not talking about the business side, doing taxes, doing the marketing, get a website up. I mean, there's all that other stuff. It's really hard. That's why companies is this, because they're just easier to have a group of 6 or 7 people sharing the load, and everybody doing their strengths. But anyway, I think again I'm done with my rant. Anybody have any last questions? Got a story about eBay for Mark says. You have a story about eBay for another time? Yeah, I've got stories about eBay. I throw eBay and PayPal in the same camp, and I have stories. I mean, I deactivated and canceled my PayPal when they said that if you said something they didn't like, they could fine you $2,500. And then, of course, they took that right down. They said, "Oh, that was a mistake." But I read the document that had been looked over by a lawyer, and it was definitely not a mistake. They maybe not meant to release it yet, but they were planning on it. And the fact that a bank can just steal your money without your permission, I want nothing to do with a bank like that. eBay, I've been burned on eBay. I think anybody's used has been burned, so I just stay away from it. I do buy from B&H used. You can get some really, and they check them out. I know somebody that's bought a whole bunch of gear, and they only buy B&H used because they got somebody that checks it out. So B&H used, B&H period, B&H used is a reliable source. And there's some camera companies that sell lenses and stuff. I've bought some from them, but again, with the company you're paying overhead more so than individuals. I wish there was a better way to market. Oh, I do have a question for people to think about. Sorry, I need some drink. Where do you store all your backup stuff? See, DSL shooter Chris bought a LTO drive, which is a $5,000 tape drive, because you can a fixed hard drive, a spinning hard drive, not an SSD, but a spinning hard drive has a shelf life of only 10 years. So if you want to keep this back up to a big old hard drive and store it, it's only guaranteed the last 7, though they say generally will last 10. So Fujifilm, which makes the primary media for the LTO drives, They have a shelf life of 30 years, and there's only about $100 for a cartridge to hold like 8 terabytes. But most people don't need that. But that's a good service. I think there's somebody medium, somebody in their 30s or 40s. That could be a business. Provide, send them some SSDs. They copy their data to the SSDs. They send them back to you. You make an LTO drive, make 2 backups. You keep one for them. So it's a different city, of course, location. And you send one back to them. They've got a backup. Seems like a great business opportunity, I think. Because not too many people can justify their own drive, that's for sure. I think that's it for today. Next week we're going to go with the YOLO box, and I'll show you what it's good at, what it's bad at, what it needs to improve in. But we're only on version 1.7. The Pro, which is their most developed one, it's in version 3. It's much better about some of the basic things. So I think I have a new video outro. So I'm going to give it a try here. Load video 2. Let's see everybody next week.